Welcome to Live Pure, the podcast. I'm your hostess, Janel Alexandra. Get comfy, settle in, as we discuss all things health and well-being. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Now, let's get to talking about living pure. Hi, welcome back. Today I'm here with Ed and Kim Cheney. They're the owners of Cannafyl, which is a local CBD company here in Arizona. I've known them for quite some time, and I have to admit that I love all of their products. So thank you for being here today, both of you.
Oh, thank
Janel,
you.
we love you. Listen, so we've learned so much from Janel. Janel, thanks for inviting both of us.
Yeah.
We get a chance to not only share our knowledge with you, but we get to share that knowledge with your listeners as well,
Yeah.
which I think is awesome.
Yeah, which is why
So-
I've invited you today.
Yeah, so, and for those who want to know, Cannafyl, we are a manufacturer. Kim and I started this business to be able to improve our current health options. Our options now have been, what do they call that? When medicine only treats the symptoms.
Like a Band-Aid.
Like a Band-Aid. And we would prefer to have the body heal itself. So we created Cannafyl to give, what started out with our family members and friends, to give them options that are a little bit more allopathic.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now we
Or
started.
less allopathic.
Yeah, I started using your topical products mainly for myself because as I started going back into massaging, my hands, just getting used to my hands, I have arthritis in there, and so I was using your salve, which is the lemongrass smell, and I think that's yummy, but it's not super cakey. And then you've got the roll-on that's got the higher CBD in it, and I was using that on my clients as well as on my neck.
Yep.
And I think both of those products were amazing. And then you came out with the Vibe, and I was like, what?
Yes.
So all of your products are just, and I've tried other CBD products in the past as well, and yours are by far better than any other brand I've ever tried.
Well,
so.
thank you, Janelle.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very nice. We try and make it so that you actually feel the difference
Yeah.
And
when
we
you're
do.
using CBD.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a nice synergy between Kim and I. She's the nurturer one, so she recognizes what is needed out there. And then I'm a lab rat. I go in there and I formulate the craziest stuff. And so she's right. If we get a wow response, then I've done my job.
Right. And she's the good listener. You're the good listener that
Yeah,
pays
well,
attention
I'm-
to what we do need out there.
I also do use every single product that
she
we
does.
have.
I have to say, when I walk
manufactured.
into my office, because I have both your bath bombs and your bath soaps.
Yes.
And when I walk into the office, it's the first thing I smell because they're in that display case. And it's like, even just smelling it, I'm instantly like, okay, calm.
yes, I have a lot of customers that say the soap really just makes the bathroom smell wonderful.
Yeah.
It's just
And
lavender.
it's pretty. I love the little
lemongrass.
marbling that's in it. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
perfect. So.
Yeah.
But I specifically asked you here today so that we could talk about, now for my own personal journey, I had an addiction to marijuana. And so I know that you also have other friends and family who have had the same issue where we were taking it thinking it was helping us medicinally, and in fact it was hindering our health and making us worse. So I wanted to invite you both here so that you could talk to our guests about, or our listeners about, the side effects and the symptoms that we may be experiencing from using long-term cannabis.
Yes, and I like that you used the term long-term use. There's another term out there called chronic use.
Which I definitely was.
Right. There are medicinal properties that THC does have for us, but those properties get nulled out when one of those two happen: prolonged use and chronic use.
Well, and I think just since I started off with a medicinal card, and the medicinal marijuana that we were buying initially is way different than now with it being legal.
You are so correct.
Just the THC content itself is so high, it's very hard for us to find any CBD in the product these days. And
You
so
are
it's
so
really
correct.
being catered towards people who just want to get high.
Would you like to hear numbers?
Yes.
So back in the day when we were all young and we were buying this from somebody on the street,
When we were buying a lid's worth, right?
Yeah.
14% is what we were buying. If you were to use the same measurements today, they're upwards towards 70% now.
Yeah, I know in some places you can get it at 95% THC.
See, to be able to see that span, that ratio difference, Well, no wonder everybody's struggling with
Yeah, because I think
chronic
even a
use.
temporary use, that's where we're getting
Well,
induced with anxiety and like schizophrenia type episodes, and
Yeah.
it's just not good for anybody at this point.
I think that was impossible to get there back in the day when it was 14%.
Right.
You know, the psychotic.
Yeah, wouldn't you just fall
disorder.
asleep before then?
Pretty much, you get the munchies and pass
fall
out,
asleep,
and
yeah.
that was it, you know. And but now it's
I think they had.
it's almost debilitating.
Yeah.
I think they had one disorder
Yeah.
30 years ago. Now they have 6 cannabis disorders.
I'm not sure why that started. Like why? I mean, I know
To Janelle's
the-
point, I think it was the increase in the potency.
Yeah, but
People are
but
looking
why?
for their, I mean, in general, our society is so overwhelmed and so stressed out that I think the mentality is more is better.
Of course.
So I'm going to take more THC and that's going to help my anxiety better or whatever. And just like me, by the end, I was taking it for everything. I was taking it for appetite. I was
Yeah.
taking it to help me sleep. And then eventually the anxiety was setting in, and I needed it to just get out of the house, or I needed to have a conversation with somebody, and it was being used all the time instead of just for pain or appetite. But after getting off of it and gaining the weight back, I realized it was actually hindering me gaining weight.
Yeah.
So I call it the Shaggy effect because I stayed skinny even though I was eating cherry pie for breakfast. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting how it does affect everyone differently. Like, and of course, your use will determine that. I've never been able to use it like that. I've only been able to use it in very small doses in the evening. I find it, if I tried it in the daytime, I was completely useless the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You might as well just put me in
And
bed.
were you
I'll see
altering back
tomorrow.
and forth then, or have you tried the difference between sativa and indica? Because I always had different blends.
I've always only been an indica person, mainly because I've only done it in the evening.
Right.
So I've never really, I have tried sativa and I have used it, but I just really, I don't know if it's that I couldn't really get to that place where I could tell the difference, because it really just only makes me a little hungry and then sleepy. I have a lot of people that say, oh, I wake and bake every day. I'm like, wow, I don't know how you do that.
Yeah, that's what I was doing, and it was helping me like get up and start focusing for the day. Or I called it my Adderall. It would help me like have the energy and the focus to get up and do what I needed to do for the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have never been able to do that. I literally, if I'm going to have a day where I don't want to do anything and I'm just going to like sit and watch TV, then I could possibly.
That's when I
say,
would break out the
"Okay."
indica, and I would sit on the couch with all my snacks, and it was like my carb loading day, and I would
Yeah.
just sit there and watch TV and eat all day long.
Well, let's talk about one of the cannabis disorders that I think everyone, including our listeners, will find familiar.
Right.
And that would be cannabis withdrawal syndrome. Now, cannabis withdrawal syndrome, you would think it only spoke to when I want to quit. But let's talk about the one that most people are familiar with. If you're using it in a prolonged and chronic basis, like you two were just speaking of, at some point, you have to consume more and more of the same product to get to the same place.
Correct.
And it's because this is the only cannabinoid that the brain learns to become resistant to. And so that tolerance just starts building up over time. And I think every experienced user goes to a place where they evaluate and assess, I'm going to have to stop for 2 weeks in order to reset that. You know, because this is costing me an arm and a leg, or, you know, I'm in the bathroom all day long. You know,
Yeah, it
speaking
went
with my
from
boss.
just taking 1 or 2 hits a day to suddenly I was smoking up to an ounce a month by the end of it.
Correct. And that is a function that happens in the brain, and that's all there is to it. So, but practice users are experienced with this, and they know it's about a 2-week process to clear that out, and then it'll reset back to where it was when you first started. So that is one that everybody should be familiar with. The other one is you've decided it is time to stop. And then cannabis withdrawal syndrome then has some really nasty effects. And those effects usually are felt in your agitation, your anxiety, and your sleep are the big 3. And the sleep is horrific for some. Now, not everybody goes through cannabis withdrawal. There'll be a form of it, but a lot will go. They say about 50% of the population will go through what they consider the extreme cannabis withdrawal, And that is when you go through 7 days of no sleep at all. So being awake for 7 days is horrific. And if anybody has ever experienced that, that's hallucinations, that total body shutdown. It's horrible, absolutely horrible. So let's move over. Let's move over to a subject that stays with cannabis withdrawal syndrome. A lot of people will use it for sleep because it has a sedative type of characteristic to it. Like if you want to get knocked out, yeah, just a couple of gummies, a couple of good strong hits, and you will get knocked out. But you will wake up 3 or 4 hours later.
Right, and that was the problem that I was having. So I would get
Yeah.
deep sleep. It would help me fall asleep, but I wasn't staying asleep.
You would never get to that REM 5. You just can't get to it. And it also, at some point, the excitatory transmissions that cannabis is capable of giving you, all cannabis, that starts to get stronger once the sedative or the psychoactive piece starts to wear off. And this is another reason why you can't get to sleep. You can't get to REM 5, and then you'll wake up after about 3 or 4 hours. So anyway, they're using this because, well, this is the only thing that'll knock me out. This is the only thing that allows me to go to sleep at 9:30
I think
after
there's a lot of
very
people
busy
like that
day.
with their glass of wine still too. Is they're like, well, this helps
True.
me fall asleep, but in general, it like if I had 2 beers last night to celebrate my birthday, and my Whoop tells me, I know, yay, birthday. But my Whoop tells me when I look at it, I'm in the red recovery today. So I didn't get to bed until like 11-ish or so. And then I woke up at 5 like I normally do. But when you look at my sleep pattern for the night, it looks like I was exercising all night long. And I remember, I know that I had dreams, so I know that I was falling asleep. But just those 2 beers like screwed up my entire night's worth of sleep.
Yeah. Well,
It elevates your temperature.
Yeah, all of
It
those
does
things.
all
And I
of
know
those
that
things.
THC was the same way. So again, as I'm like looking at my stats from the last few years with just the Whoop, it's like, it's amazing. And then now being clean of THC completely, I get all the way down in the bottom zone and the blue zone, and I'm sleeping all night long without it. Yeah.
Oh, and so much better for your health.
Yeah, I wake up at 5 and I'm like,
Regeneration,
let's go.
all of it. Oh my goodness, yes. Well, we'll stay on this withdrawal. If you're trying to get off cannabis 100%, and when I speak cannabis, I'm usually talking about THC, psychoactive cannabinoids. The time it takes to get past cannabis withdrawal symptoms like agitation, anxiety, and terrible sleep patterns is roughly 2 weeks. If you interact with THC during those 2 weeks, you will start over again.
All over again.
Okay, I want to be able to make sure that everybody hears that. I have personal experience with this too. So I'm one of those that was affected by it. And I'm not a cannabis user, but when I met Kim, she helped me fall asleep with cannabis. And I went, wow, this is terrific. And so I would eat her brownies every night. Well, guess what size my brownie
I
kept
want to
growing
try your
to?
brownies without the cannabis. I'm still waiting for those brownies.
And so after about a year, I had came to the place of being a chronic user now. I'm using a huge brownie because that's the only thing that worked. So when I stopped, I went through it all. I
remember
tried
hearing
3 different
some of these
times.
Stories, yeah.
So it can be miserable, but the final outcome was to hold on and make it through those 2 weeks.
And did you try anything else like melatonin or anything else? Or
Nothing else, but
cold turkey of-
CBD I found
Yeah.
was at the end, the 3rd time, CBD helped. It helped tremendously because THC can hide in fat. So even though I stopped using it, those transmissions were still happening. Those excitatory transmissions were still happening. And CBD was the one place that it helped.
And
It
CBD
calmed
is
that
the
down.
component in marijuana that we're getting the medicinal aspects of it. It's the CBD in marijuana that.
No, THC by itself has benefits all on its own.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I was so.
Yeah, so CBD and the amount of CBD that's in today's medical and recreational cannabis is so low, and it's very difficult to get a high volume of CBD. And by the way, CBD is not psychoactive, so you can do high volumes of CBD. And trust me, I was to get to my sleep, but you cannot with THC. So that cannabinoid has benefits, but as soon as you start upping the potency, you start running into the problems that it has, like I can't drive, I can't walk, I might fall, break my hip, so forth and so on, which is why they still keep it out of a lot of senior assisted living centers and so forth, is because, yeah, they want to increase their use because of what we spoke to earlier, and then other problems start showing up.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's cannabis withdrawal syndrome, which is probably the most common and most familiar at the same time. There's another one I wanted to share, which is an interesting one, and that is called cannabinoid hyperemesis syndrome.
Say that 3 times fast.
You can't. You-
Anyway, hyperemesis syndrome is not a common occurrence with people who are using cannabis, and you have to use cannabis for a prolonged time, and you have to use it at a level of chronic. Now, it's not when you quit. At some point, you may get this, and then the biggest thing that you will experience is nonstop throwing up.
Yes, and I
What?
have a friend a couple years ago who went through that experience for like 24 hours, and then she was hospitalized.
Miserable.
Yeah.
Try throwing up 2 or 3 times after a night of heavy drinking. Well, here you're going to throw up 20, 30, 40 times. I read one story. Kim and I did a show on this, and this poor girl, the only way that would calm down if she was taking a warm shower, and she would stay in that thing for an hour.
I know many addicts of different types of issues where they only feel comfortable in a hot bath or in a warm shower.
Yeah.
I didn't.
And I know towards the end, as I was breaking through my addictions, I needed showers on a very regular basis as well.
Huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first time I'd heard. That was the only time that she could calm that feeling of wanting to vomit. And even when you go to the hospital, all they can do for you really is just keep you on an IV and keep your fluids going.
That's it.
And it's just time.
You have to survive it. Yeah.
And I think it's mainly with people who smoke. I don't know.
Yeah, she was smoking it, and I'm sure she was like taking big bong rips on a regular.
Yeah. I don't think it's, edibles as much as it is. There's something that triggers in the brain to your stomach, and it just can't stop. It won't stop. That connection won't end until you're clear of THC for a certain amount of time.
That does align with the findings too.
But if you start again, it's going to kick. It's very close
It's like
to starting
heat stroke.
again.
Once you've had it, it's like
Oh,
yeah.
prevalent again
Oh
and
yeah,
again.
yeah. They say you have to. You cannot even you can't do.
I don't
one
know.
hit
I would
during
think
that.
after that experience,
2 weeks.
nobody would want to pick it back up again.
Oh, I
then
can't
they
imagine.
Yeah, with this one they suggest you have to stay off of it for an entire month, or at least that's what the data has shown. So again, weather through it. You have no other choice. Hot showers, baths seem to minimize that impact, but you're still in the shower throwing up. You're just not going to leave this. And the biggest concern is the one that Kim had put. You need to stay hydrated.
Yeah.
Clear
Fluids.
fluids are best.
And you're not going to be able to drink water because it'll just come back up. You should go to the hospital if you have uncontrolled vomiting and you are a chronic pot smoker. I don't even know I guess you do have to be chronic, but go to the hospital because you're going to dehydrate yourself severely. You won't be able to do any. You can't get it in your body. It will come back out.
Yep.
So that's probably the worst thing that we have found out with recreational THC in the last couple of years.
I would agree.
It's definitely more prominent now than it was back before.
Because more and more people are now consuming.
And the levels
At
are
higher
so
potencies.
high. And,
Yeah.
when you were smoking, there were days where you were like, wow, I did a lot more today than I did yesterday.
Yeah.
What? Why?
Yeah. Well, mine was definitely a psychological thing. So as I
Yeah.
was trying to quit after leaving my ex, and I was still going through psychological healing from all of that, I would tell myself, well, I'm no longer in a bad marriage. I'm no longer in a bad relationship. I no longer am around bad people. I should be able to quit easily. That was the whole thing. It's like, this should be easy for me. And then that's when I realized, oh my God, I have an addiction. And so there would be times where I would quit, and maybe I would do really good for like a month or two, and then something psychological would happen again, and it would set me back. And being in a new place, it wasn't my home, or my kid wasn't with me for part of the week, and then I had like this true like depressing, lonely feeling of like, oh my God. And so I would use it to then mask the loneliness, and I would go right back to using on a regular basis. And in my mind, I was like, well, I'm just going to use it for tonight. I'll watch some Netflix or whatever and get over this lonely feeling, and I'll go back to tomorrow. But then I would wake up in the morning and it'd be like, oh, let's just go back to our routine. And I did
It's
that
like-
like 3 or 4 times over a 2-year period.
Right. It's like any addiction, right? I think, I don't know if it's as humans, when something feels good, we want to do it again and again and more and more and
that
again
just
and
keeps
more and more.
digging that pattern into our brain cells.
Yeah.
Even yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're a society that likes chasing.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
I love chasing my men.
I've always tried to just keep it at a recreational, fun type of situation. Now, I will tell you, I do use CBD every evening to sleep. And every once in a while, if I know I'm having a more anxious day, I will throw in a THC gummy in there. I prefer a Delta 8 just because it's a calmer of the THCs. But for the most part, no. I used to make those brownies for myself, and I made really strong brownies. And then he enjoyed them, and so we were like, okay, well, what the heck? This is also fun, and it's we're making it. It's homemade. There's nothing that we don't know is in there. But yeah, the addiction part, it sneaks up on you, and you're just going, oh my goodness, I didn't know I was doing this every single day.
Now, there is a growing number of the population who believes THC is the route to pain-free and to sleep issues, especially in our aging community. And it is worrisome with the potency going up.
Yeah.
It is very worrisome. We need healthier regeneration as we get to that age.
That is such a good word.
And I think they're getting robbed of it because of misinformation.
Yeah, because I think, especially for smokers, there's more and more studies that are linking marijuana smoking just the same as cigarette smoking. So even though there's maybe not the same amount of chemicals, but we're still ingesting the smoke, and now it's being linked to lung cancer and other cardiovascular issues.
Yeah.
Right.
Anytime you burn a substance and inhale it, it's not good for you.
Your body is not designed to have that on a recurring basis. It's capable.
Yeah.
But you keep hitting it over and over again. There are lots of consequences to that.
Right.
So there are just a few more, and I do want to bring them up, and that is under cannabis use disorder. And please feel free to share if you've experienced any of these. One of them is cannabis-induced psychotic disorder, and the other one is cannabis-induced anxiety disorder. That means you can directly relate it to one of those two psychological issues.
Well, for me, of course, yes, anxiety. I have definitely found that if I'm in the wrong mind frame or anything like that, if I do THC, I'm going to exacerbate that feeling, that anxiety, that PTSD, whatever you want to call it, that will pop up in the brain, and it's hard to shut it back down. Yeah.
Right. Now, there's studies out there to suggest that if that does occur, the natural state of our society is to, well, let me do some more. The problem with that is it's not going to go away. We already know that because we hear everybody talk that way. But the brain stops learning the ability to get rid of it. And so exacerbating it can be long-term as well. So the suggestion is if you can make this connection, go ahead and go through the leaving it behind, stopping it for a month. It takes 1 month. Stop it for 1 month.
Yeah, there were times where I would wake up in the morning and I could actually taste it in my mouth. So after stop using, I would wake up and I could
Interesting.
taste THC in my mouth. So I could tell that it was still
In your body.
in my body.
Well, you obviously don't have a lot of body fat. But if you do, that's where it stores. Whatever body fat you have, THC will stay there and store there for it could be many months, depending on how heavy a user you are. That's why they say if you need to take a drug test, you really need to wait quite a while, and you need to do a lot of
detoxing.
before you go in for any type of testing. So yeah, it definitely can reoccur throughout the month, and you're like, wow, what was that? Oh, okay, that's what that was. It's still leaving.
Yeah, and I could imagine. Now, I went and did a plant medicine that allowed me to really break finally the addiction to that. I have zero desire to consume THC marijuana ever again. I don't mind the smell of it still, like smelling it in the distance or being with friends. I don't mind the smell of it, but it doesn't give me that trigger versus I can imagine, like, again, there would be a couple of times where I would go a month or two, and had I tasted that in my mouth, that would have been a trigger for me to be like, oh, I need that. And so I can imagine anybody else who's going through withdrawals or like truly addicted to it, that would be like a sign of like, oh, if I'm tasting it, then maybe I still need it, or whatever the excuse may be. I could see how it would play tricks on us in that regard.
Yeah. And what is the supplement, or if you want to share, what is it that helps you not feel that trigger to use it anymore?
Well, I did the plant medicine ibogaine. I did that down in Cancun.
Okay.
And it's supposed to truly rewire your brain. So it's unlike any other plant medicine that's out there. It's helping people break addictions to opioid use and like PTSD from veterans. I mean, people are going down there for some severe issues, and it's their last resort, and they're walking out of there completely healed. Now, the difference, though, I think with some people is those who end up resorting back to their old ways as they come home and they haven't been given new plans or new habits, or they haven't been shown how to alter their entire lives, because this is now an altering, right? So I'm not around people who drink alcohol because I don't enjoy drinking alcohol. I'm not around people who are smoking on a regular basis. And I've had to also reset my mind so that, like, breath work and ice baths and retraining just my central nervous system in general. There were a lot of things that I had to learn in order to now deal with the outside stressors. The whole reason of why we're consuming those substances is, right, is to mask or to Band-Aid over whatever our emotional, mental stress is.
Right.
So I had to work really hard to get to a place where if something triggers me now, I can say, oh, I recognize this as a trigger. And then I have exercises like calming my breath or whatever it may be.
Huh. Yeah, that's great.
That is terrific, Janelle. And I think having an understanding of this is important too. Most addictions that we Americans face are one that are connected with the dopamine receptors.
Right.
Right. THC is not one of them. So THC has the ability to rewire circuits in your brain. So your brain then functions differently, and it's that problem that you've learned to overcome, but it's new for most people. Your brain knows how to do one thing, and then THC came in and altered it. And this understanding came from, do you know why THC is in a marijuana plant? It's so that it would not be eaten by the animals.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it was designed to alter
Humans are
the
weird
brain
creatures.
of that. So,
well, it's, the
animal.
marijuana plant is low to the ground. It's pretty. It looks very consumable. But for whatever reason, that THC component in there, the animals do not like it.
It was its
They
defense
will not eat it.
mechanism.
So that is why it's there now. Crazy that, us humans found it, and
I want some.
I always ask Ed, I'm like, how do you think anybody thought
A lightning bolt struck a bush, and we were all around collecting fire, and everybody got high, and they were like, whoa, this is fun stuff.
Right? Which plant was that caught on fire that we loved? But yeah, so it is the human brain that really wants more and to enjoy itself. There's a lot of stressors in our world right now. So if you can enjoy THC without letting it take over, I think that's a great thing. I think it's I tell a lot of my customers who come in for like chronic pain, And I said, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of THC, a little bit. You don't need to go here. You stay right here, and that will manage that opioid that you're used to.
Right.
And it will help you, and you can actually get through the day, and you don't have to worry about, feeling the pain.
Well, let me. Can I invite a way to contact Kim if anybody needs
Yeah,
help
and definitely,
withdrawing from cannabis?
I know you both have your CBD podcast, so definitely let everybody know what that is so they can follow you on that so that they can get more information. Because every podcast, you've got quite a bit of knowledge and information, and I think it's super helpful for people.
Yes, it was designed to remove the misinformation. Oh, there's so much of it out there.
So much of it out there.
But if you're struggling with withdrawing from cannabis, Kim is a great resource, and you can reach her at info@cannafyl.com. That's info@cannafyl.com. Phil is F-Y-L. And if you did want to brush up on some subjects, we have about 200, 300 podcasts all around specific topics like this. And the podcast is under thecbdedshow.org.
Okay.
Yeah. And we talk all things cannabis. We talk about CBD, CBG, THC. I mean, all the cannabinoids.
We've talked about you once.
Yeah, I came on for the pets. Yeah,
Yes.
because you guys have got the pet products, and
Yes.
my dog loves it, especially after he got attacked by
Oh my
coyotes
God,
last
my
summer.
dog still misses you.
Yeah. Oh, I'll come back. All right. Well, I'm so glad that you guys came on the show today, and I think you gave our listeners a tremendous amount of knowledge and information. So thank you for being here today.
Oh, thank you
Thank
for
you
having
for having
us.
us.
Yes. Jinx.
Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you learned something new about health and well-being. Remember, your current position is not your final destination. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Definitely reach out with questions so we can discuss it in a future episode. Until next time, live pure.